Hello, everyone, and welcome to this fine new episode of the Ubuntu Touch Q&A, the UbiPorts Foundation show discussing the development of Ubuntu Touch and your community questions and maybe your answer stuff for yourself in the forums. This is episode 151, streamed live on October 19th, 2024. And joining me tonight are simply...
Appli.
That's his new second name, I see. And also...
Marius. It's me,
Look at that.
Mario.
Oh, he changed his name thing again. There we go.
Also, I have this t-shirt.
That explains a lot, Marius. That explains a lot.
I got it in a present because it's kind of a joke with me locally too.
Let me just say that it is a very fitting joke indeed.
I'm sorry.
All right, so let's start this episode with going through a few changes that have happened over the last 2 weeks on GitLab. And let's start with, first and foremost, Ophono Binder plugin and Ophono Binder plugin XMTK have landed in the system. So that means that MediaTek devices that are capable of voice over LTE with the X plugin on MTK devices are now possible to use or are now able to use voice over LTE. So that includes the Vodafone X23 and upcoming one. So look at that. That is some movement that is happening. Also accompanying that is the change to show the voice over LTE logo in the indicator, or rather when you pull down the indicator in the connectivity entry in the list. There it shows the voice over LTE status when it's used. And also system settings have released or received the switch to disable voice over LTE should it not be possible to be used with your carrier. So that is quite something for those who have been waiting for voice over LTE on MediaTek devices. It's going to roll out with OTA 6, and specific devices have it enabled already, specifically those with Halium 12 and up Halium layer, where the IMS implementation resides. So look forward to that, and also on your shiny devices receiving voice over LTE treatment. I think in the same vein, Marius wants to say something along the lines of voice over LTE here, and there you go.
I once wanted to note also that in the change that there is also changes to 5G, like the indicator and also in settings to be able to enable 5G. So, for example, devices like Fairphone 5 now actually works with 5G. I will mention more. I will mention more VoLTE stuff later in experiments.
All right. Okay. Very good. So what we also have is a few changes to reparody on device Karna config file for Xiaomi Surya, and also a few changes to Lumiri's sync monitor to make it a little nicer to build. Also, what is next here? Yeah, there have been some changes to also something that I implemented. I did something for Mir Android 2 platform, and that is external monitor reconnects now work, which means that when you plug the Fairphone 4 or Fairphone 5 in the future into a docking station and you have an external monitor connected, it allows to disconnect and reconnect the external monitor properly now. Might still take some time and until the device detects that, hey, this thing is actually not there anymore. But external monitors, once disconnected, reconnect properly again. And that one has been a long time coming, but it's finally there. Also, what has happened is Lumiri Toolkit agent, which is required for Snap installations to not require sudo. It's required for certain security privilege checks where you enter your password to verify that this is an intentional action that you want to do. Lumiri Polkit agent now seems to have fixed the issue where it would block Lumiri from restarting and vice versa. So this is something that has been requested a lot, and it's finally there. Also, a few changes to import patch to fix Lumiri terminal app crash on close. So a few crash fixes. Also, libgbinder has received a change where it fixes talking to the AIDL vibrator HAL. So for those who don't know, AIDL is something like HIDL or HIDL from, not to be confused with FIDL, which is the way to talk to like Android services and in between processes. And this fixes an issue where, let me take a look at the patch real quick because I haven't seen that one myself. Yeah, it changes a few things in the wire protocol to actually work properly with newer devices, which might depend on Halium 12, especially just Halium 12, because I think they changed the thing at Google. They changed the thing again after Halium 13, Android 13. So there you go. Adapting a thing for one version is not unheard of in UbiPort's land because we did the same for Jumper Cable, but that's a whole another story. So, yeah, what else do we have? Yeah, most of the things were related to 5G and voice over LTE, and also making sure that something for Noble only start Media Scanner 2.0 in Lumiri sessions, which didn't work properly because it started with pretty much every desktop, or did not start with any desktop because it was having a mistake in the check which desktop environment it's running on, and that was due to the renaming from Unity 8 to Lumiri. So we're still dealing with those things, but it's now fixed. And yeah, other things have landed since then. Also, the renaming from Lumiri to from Canonical to Lumiri in the media scanner, and also what has landed for Noble to be in the repository, and potentially should we have another focal update after this one. Live switching of application themes also works now. So in the system settings, when you toggle the switch to enable dark mode or disable dark mode and switch over to light mode, this actually allows to apply immediately without you having to restart the application anymore. And that is one of the last few things that are going to land in Focal, if anything, before we release Noble, because our plan is still to do as little changes to Focal as possible. Oh, by the way, another thing regarding Focal, we have decided to postpone OTA 6 until after the Ubuntu Summit, because there is a mobile data breakage that has been reported with the Vodafone X23 on a German telecom carrier. And until we know what's going on with that, we're not willing to release this as of yet. So if you happen to own a Vodafone X23 and you happen to be on telecom as a carrier, please verify that RC Ubuntu Touch 2004 works or not, and provide logs as necessary, because we don't want to risk mobile connectivity breakage with an update. So please keep that in mind if you're waiting for the OTA 6 on Focal, and also help us getting this sorted out.
Yeah, this is the major kind of bugs that will stop the release of a version, and so that's why we have the release candidate, so we can spot this kind of bugs beforehand. And yeah, so but when the final version is released, yeah, no need to report it. It's too late. So
Yeah.
it's better for you if you can test it. Let's say on the weekend because you rely on your phone for work. Just try it out for one day. Check that everything that is essential to you works, and then alert people as soon as possible. And then you will not have to complain when everything's crash afterwards because you didn't test it when it's
Yes.
still on RC and you can go back to the previous stable.
Yes.
So because after it's in stable, then it's too late. We can't go back.
Yes. Indeed, that is the case. So please help us get this fixed and provide logs in case you happen to be on the carrier that this happens on. So, yeah. With that, I think we should head over to the experiments. What do you say?
Yeah.
All right.
Let's do that.
Yeah,
Should I
Marius
start?
has one.
Of course.
Yeah. So over the last, shall I say, 3 years, I have been experimenting with VoLTE, starting from getting absolutely nowhere because it's such a tricky thing. Then I got a little bit lucky and was able to kind of inspect the source and try to get an parse of it at least to get more of a understanding of how it works. This happened like the start of this year. And then, before that, I had not really much on go on. Then I had to trace everything. I still need to do that. And until now, where I finally have a working stack, which works well. Still has some problems. Still has some issues here and there. But VoLTE, I can see now officially works on Qualcomm, and Nikita has done an amazing job getting it also to work on MediaTek devices.
Applause. Praise both of them.
Yeah.
Praise Marius and praise Anotkit.
Yeah, we have both major SOC working, so that's a really good thing. Now there's still a lot of work to do, but that's a huge first step.
Yeah. And the amazing thing is that, well, call it amazing or not, but the thing is that it's not that, it is a lot of code, but it's not that much code. You would expect this to be a huge amount of code, but most of the time it has been the research that has been kind of tricky, because no one else in the world except manufacturers of phone and Google and Apple has done this.
Yes.
This is the interesting thing. So there's no information at all. You can't Google search how to implement VoLTE.
Yeah, and it's part of the whole it being a black box on Android devices type of situation that we're in, where all the implementations, they might be proprietary, which is sad, but this is something that if we want to rely on Android-based devices, then this is something that we will have to deal with for now. And them being those black boxes makes it hard for us to figure out how they are actually interfaced with. And yeah, but there is something for MediaTek devices now. There is something for Qualcomm devices now. I happen to have a Pixel 7a, which is tensor based. So not much of a luck situation there, because that one is another SoC by another SoC vendor. And that one would need another implementation just for this type of vendor implementation. So yeah, it's a sad state of affairs, but what shall we do?
Actually, there is a little bit of happy news there. It seems like, we're not sure, but it seems like Google in Android 13 or 14 has made a common interface for IMS. But this is still a little bit unsure, but it is there. So we will see what happens with that. If they really go through with that will simplify it a lot for us, because then there's one interface we need to Bidle, or I think it's now idle.
Idle, yes. Not Bidle.
Bidle. I meant Hidle. Oh my, too much. I meant Idle. That's the new one because, of course, Google they made Hidle and they had it for like 4 versions of Android and then they dropped it because they
Yeah.
need to make us work harder.
Yeah.
So
They need to justify.
now we need
They
to
need
switch
to
interface
justify
again.
the
But
resources put into Android, right?
yeah, true that. Yeah, that was happen when you have unlimited money.
Yes. All right. Okay. With the experiments, there's also something new that I've been working on over the last few weeks. Just finished it today, and I'll just post a comment here in chat. If it lands, there it goes, and this is the one. Snapcraft.io/Lomiri UI Toolkit Core 24. We have a content snap with Lomiri UI Toolkit on the Snap Store now. And it's based on Core 24.
Amazing.
And this brings me to another point, which I want to show real quick. Let me share my screen. If this actually works or not, I'm not sure. Wait a second. macOS, why are you so complicated? Why? Okay, let's do this here. We have this one. You see that?
Yeah.
There we go. We have Deco as a snap running on Ubuntu Desktop 2404. And please don't look at my messy home screen here or desktop. But we do have Deco running. It's not completely finished yet, but it showcases that the Lomiri UI Toolkit Core 24 content snap can be used reasonably well. Also in combination with other content snaps next to it. So with Deco, we do have 3 snaps playing together. We have the Deco snap, and the Deco snap references the Lomiri UI Toolkit from the Lomiri UI Toolkit content snap that I linked, and it references the graphics drivers from the Mesa 2404 content snap, so that you can get the freshest drivers on Core 24 and the freshest version of Lomiri UI Toolkit running with Deco together, so that those 3 things can be updated next to each other at the same time, whatever, and still function properly. And for that, we actually have in, I might just stop it right there. I do have the GitHub right here somewhere, and on the GitHub page, I do showcase how to use those, because Snapcraft YAML for the application needs to be adapted slightly, or I mean, not adapted if it's a fresh thing for you, a fresh app package. But this is what it looks like. And this is basically, it's just under my private GitHub right now, and I intend to move it over to UBports as soon as possible, because it seems like the people that have... Oh, Marius is here right now. Marius, please get me the credentials to the Snapcraft account later, please. Thank you.
I will do.
Yes, there we go. That was what's missing. And
I will do.
yeah. You want to say something? Okay, he's muted. Okay. So what a fail. What a fail. So, but yeah, so you can see on the GitHub page how it is used and the 2 steps that are required for you to actually make use of the Lomiri UI Toolkit packaged as a content snap. So should you ever choose to release your applications as a snap, it's now possible, and you can use them pretty much with an up-to-date Lomiri UI Toolkit as soon as possible. So already. There we go.
Okay, should we go on with new applications and updated applications in Surface Store?
Yes, please.
So this week we have one new application. and it's called a shopping list, which is another shopping list, as it's advertised by the creator, Vlad Nurki. So yeah, this is a shopping list with some new features. So the number of items you can add. That's yeah, quite a simple shopping list, but it works. I like how it stroke out, probably. Yeah, so great to have new things. Already 3 versions for this first app since 3 days.
There we go.
Oh no, a week now, but in 3 days, 3 versions. So thank you, Vlad, for this new app. And we have a bunch of updated apps. The first one that has been updated was iQuit, an app to help you quit smoking. That's good for your health. Please stop smoking. It will be better for you. You will live longer, and you can donate them. We have also mileage that has been updated. Mileage help you calculate the miles per gallon that you will consume with your car. We have also a game, that circle puzzle that has been updated. The thing is, you have to align the 4 circles and solve the puzzle. The challenge is to do this in the least amount of moves. We also have the UT translator, which is an offline translator. That's also great to have. And I think in the new version we have new languages. Yeah, fixed language selector localization and showing more languages. Yes, it's the most. No, it's it's the most recent. Sorry. I'm bad with my browser. And the time calculator, which is also helpful if you need to compute some times, like how is 3 times 122 hours? How many days? I don't know, but I can compute it with my phone with the time calculator app. So thank every developers for those applications and the continuous support of Ubuntu Touch and the maintaining of those apps. That's really great. We need more apps like this to show. And yeah, what's an OS if you don't have apps to install on? So yes. Thank you very much.
There we go.
Now I think it's time to thank our sponsors.
Yeah, who wants to take the patrons later?
I can do that if you want.
Okay, good.
Marius did it last time.
Yeah, all right. So thanks again to the sponsors, and that includes, where is the banner? There it is. Smooth, Voila, Pine64, OneStein, DigitalOcean, Netlify, Odoo Community Association, Private Internet Access, Gardner and Associates Consulting Inc., Tixia, GitLab, Cloudrun, CodeLuta, and Gandhi.net. Look at that. The list is very long, and I'm so happy to see so many names on there, to be honest, because without you, this thing wouldn't be as much possible as one would think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have also amazing patrons that helps us do what we do and bring us this amazing OS. So huge thanks to ACL, Conspy, Daniel Franchak, Enik, Heather Ellsworth, Jose Angel Escura, JT, Kenneth Drew, Linus Rune, Luigi 311, Marty McFly Jr., Michael Kellner, Mr. T10001, Omegus, PK, Robin Hood, Rondarius, Spendiapose, Stephen Granger, Taffitson, and Will Atwood. Thank you all for your continuous support, and thanks also to all the other patrons that are maybe don't have the same means, and so they donate a bit less, but we also thank you very much because you make it possible. If you also want to donate, you can go to ubiports.com/donate. We have several means of donations like LibrePay, Patreon, also direct SEPA transfer, or even what it's called. Not eBay. Damn, I don't have the name to that. Well, you know the things that everyone uses. PayPal.
PayPal, there we go, yeah.
Yeah, because I know one of them is from PayPal from our patron, Steven Granger, to name one. The other one are mostly from Patreon.
There we go.
And if you want to also help us out, you can also go to the merch store at ubiports.com/shop. Thank you very much for your continued support, and hopefully we will have a lot of good news in the future, like VoLTE being available on different devices, or 5G working, stuff like that. That would be amazing to have it soon enough. Or even the novel version that we expect, hopefully in the beginning of 2025. But let's see where it lands. Hopefully, we will have some news and good news as soon as possible. We will see. We will let you know as soon as we know.
Yeah. Also, with regards to Voice over LTE, one thing that I wanted to mention, and that is, it's not in. I didn't put it in the experiments. It's also not finished, but I do consider, and I've started putting Halium 12 on the Pixel 3a, because that one is one of the biggest, if not the biggest device out there with Ubuntu Touch right now. But we would have to do so in a way that, because reflashing the device is not possible for us on the fly. We can't ship the vendor blobs with an Ubuntu Touch update. Neither do we want to. And for that matter, it requires a reflash, or would require in the future a reflash when it's done. Because Voice over LTE has been improved in Halium, not in Halium, in Android 12.1 by Google before they officially ended support. It includes Voice over LTE roaming in the US, and I'm pretty sure that is something that we want to benefit off of. So that means I still have to put some effort in to bring Halium 12 on the Pixel 3a, and it's going to be a little tough adventure because it's not booting up at the moment properly. I know that it is starting the kernel, but it's just stopping after 60 seconds. Just after 1 minute, it's just abruptly rebooting. And it still requires a few changes, but the hope is that Voice over LTE the hope is to have Voice over LTE working with Halium 12 instead of Halium 9, which has it not working at the moment. And also is missing the roaming feature on the US carriers. So, yeah, that's about it. All right.
Yeah. So let's head to the question from the forum, because we have quite a lot. And we have questions regarding VoLTE. So the first one is from Messaisto that says, now that Marius has got VoLTE working on the Fairphone 5, applause, hooray. Thank you, Marius. What's next? How complicated will it be to implement the function in other devices, and will VoLTE make it into novel or even yet focal?
Okay, I can start with that in reverse. So I can start with if it should come in focal, and the answer to that is yes. It's targeting focal, like everything that I have done have target focal, and also it shouldn't matter that much, since it's not relying on much of the system library, since this is mostly a plugin to a phono. it's a plugin to a plugin to a phone.
Yes, actually, yes.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Then through how hard complicated it is implemented to other devices. This is a bit of a mixed bag because it depends. First, it depends if how recent that device is. It depends on how popular that device is. There's a lot of questions here because a lot of the IMS implementations are also very carrier specific, and some carriers requires whitelisting and all that. So it is a very complicated question, but purely technical. If we ignore all the vendor carrier stuff, it shouldn't be too hard for devices that support the QTI radio interface. Like it does support version 1, version 1.1, and version 1.2. The only reason why we use 1.2 as the default is because that has SMS over LTE. But it should be fairly okay-ish to get this working. You need to enable the IMS services, make sure they run on the Android side, and then install the package and have the config file. So it shouldn't be too hard.
Also, if I may say something with regards to carrier changes, the Pixel 3a, as I have had to acknowledge sadly, is one of the devices which my carrier and almost no carrier in Austria is supporting properly, which means that voice over LTE will have to be tested by someone else because the carrier doesn't have a config at the carrier side for this specific device, which means unpopular devices might not work on various carriers depending on how the carriers are receiving configurations by device vendors. So yeah, that's a sad one.
This is the this is why I kind of have a love-hate relationship with VoLTE. VoLTE is, when it works fantastic. But when it crashes and burns, it crashes so hard. And it's also a thing where they have implemented in a way where some carriers have different settings and some carriers use the default settings, and if you don't have the settings, it doesn't work at all. It doesn't even attempt, which is the really annoying thing with VoLTE. And now that they are shutting down 2G in some countries in Europe too, things like roaming will be a bigger issue. And this is not exclusive to Ubuntu Touch at all. This is things that happen with all LTE devices. I don't think iPhone has this problem because it's widely supported by pretty much every carrier, and also like Samsung and Pixels are probably also the newest one, probably also widely supported. But if you have an older device or a device that is not as popular or not as popular in your country, to say it like that, it might not be supported, and it is a really messy situation. It's not like 2G where 2G just works with all carriers, but here it's kind of you need to have something that support, and it is like I honestly think it's irresponsible for carriers to shut down 2G and 3G since we don't really have a reliable, always working solution. So it's VoLTE is great when it works, but yeah. At least working with VoLTE for the past 3 years, I've gotten to understand how completely horrible the standard is.
Yeah.
It is. So it's not great.
You answered also somehow these questions from Christopher in the chat. What are the actual perks of using VoLTE? It's just to continue to be able to make phone calls after 2G and 3G are shut down by carriers. So, and it's
Well, actually,
it's also supposed to
the actual
bring.
perks.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, the actual perks of VoLTE is quite a lot actually. Like cleaner audio. In theory, it should be a cleaner stack because it's all SIP and IP based. So technically, if you have just have an internet connection, you should be able to connect to it. So, like in theory, on paper, there's a lot of great things about VoLTE. The way that it is implemented, especially with the carrier configs and whatnot, that is a horrible thing. But everything else about VoLTE is actually pretty good. Like crystal clear audio, like instant dial-up. You don't have to wait for thing to change between 2G, 3G. You can use voice over Wi-Fi. For example, if you don't have internet connection, or if you are in like a parking garage where you don't really have internet connection, but you have Wi-Fi. So there is a lot of perks that comes with it. It's just the way that it is implemented on like true like every. It also has a kind of special setup in carriers where they create a prioritized line on your phone to be able to prioritize VoLTE, so that goes smoothly without interruptions. And this is also a bit iffy and hard to implement. So if it would just be like a normal LTE connection and then you just call through that, it could be a very simple SIP client in theory.
All right. Thank you very much. So next question is also about VLT. It's from Christatos. That says, like Messages already said, thank you for all your hard work to implement VLT into Ubuntu Touch. And so I have a few questions concerning VLT. Can you please clarify which devices got already working VLT and which devices will get VLT and what needs to be done? In another thread, there was mention about the Vodafone first generation not being able to have it, and the Vola 22 and X23 being able to have it. So we suppose it has a minimum requirement of Halium version, but I think you say that's not the case because it's just a way of implementing the plugin. Am I right?
Yes. It is kind of dependent on the Halium version because it's not directly tied with it. The thing with newer Halium version is that we get newer drivers and newer config files for VoLTE and your radio drivers. So it's not directly tied to the Android version, especially not on Qualcomm. But as I said, yeah, with newer version we get new config files, and that's why I also for example, the Fairphone 5, I recommend that you install Android 13 first and then install the Ubuntu Touch, because then you get all the latest drivers. And the only reason why the Fairphone 5 is using Halium 11 as our base is because their vendor hall is designed for Android 11. So that's why that.
Yeah, that's due to the way that Google has implemented some compatibility, right?
Yeah, the compatibility layer, or idle and idle, has really like done a great job on especially that, where the vendor partitions and the Androids are kind of separate and they can talk with each other. That's why we have versioned interface, like I talked about before, with version 1.1 and 1.2. So it's able to talk with all the generation of the modem or the vendors, but they can't go the other way around. You can't have a newer vendor partition on an older Android version, because then if the newer version has for example implemented a higher level of compatibility, it will then fail if they haven't, of course, implemented the lower version, but usually they don't do that. They implement the highest version.
Yeah.
And also, just quickly jump on which devices will get VoLTE. And as you say, the VoLTE phones, the newest VoLTE phones, and Fairphone 5, and probably Fairphone 4 too. And pretty much all this is also depending on the porters, what the porters do. And I hope we get it on the Pixel 3a and all our flagship devices, especially the newer ones. And that also kind of clarified which devices already got working VoLTE. And for Qualcomm's side, I think that the Fairphone 5 is the one that's mostly implemented there, but that's because I have been using it as my debug target.
Yeah. Great, thank you. We also have a question from Salah that I will just summarize because I already discussed with him on the forum. And he wants to know what is required for adding the feature called always on display for OLED display phones. It's the feature that allows you to have the clock always displayed on your screen and not consuming too much power because it's OLED and then you only turn on the required LEDs. So what is required for having such feature on Ubuntu Touch, and is it tricky to implement, and what are the challenges?
Well, it would require Lumiri and also the Power Manager RepowerD to have some additional code to allow for this use case. Right now, when you press the power button, it puts the device into sleep, into suspension, and for an on-screen or for an always-on screen to work, we would have to not suspend the device, or at least make sure that we draw something on the screen and then we suspend the thing, and then maybe later for the clock to actually show the actual correct time, we would have to wake it up again. And that sounds a little hacky already because it is, right? And right now, I know the Pixel 3a was shipped as an always-on device, but I had to disable it because we didn't have anything in the system that allowed for this use case to be implemented properly, and we still don't have it. And I don't have any plans to do so. If someone else has plans to do so, please contribute the patches. I'm pretty sure some people, especially device porters with OLED displays, might want to have this on their device ports. But it's not only a matter of programming, it's also a matter of design, because how should the thing look? Should it display the infographic? Should it just display the clock and maybe calendar or something else? But this is a deeper topic that needs to be talked about with more than just one person implementing it. Ideally, someone with a little bit of an idea about design steps up and helps in this case. But it would certainly, and also for the Pixel 3a, I know that some things have been implemented precisely to allow for the always on screen, and that includes a suspension of sensor services and stuff like that, to a point where not only RepowerD and Lumiri are involved, but also sensor FWD and HFD service and stuff like that. So it is a very complicated thing because it touches so many components that it's almost, for the short term, it wasn't worth it at all. So there we go.
Yeah. So quite complex because it touches a lot of sub-parts of the operating system. Yeah. So yeah, not that easy as just call this and display this in the on-screen, always on-screen display. Yes. We also have a question from Benzer. Benzer asks, have you ever considered applying to the Sovereign Tech Fund for the Ubuntu Touch project? Yes, we considered it. We didn't apply. I don't remember the arguments behind it, but it was discussed with the Board of Trustees, if I remember correctly.
I don't remember.
I don't remember.
No.
Yeah. I think it was mentioned on one of the trustees meeting, and but it didn't go further because I think we looked at some of the requirements, and nothing was done on this front. But if someone is willing to look into it and see if it's possible for the UbiPort Foundation to apply, then it would be good, I guess. But, let's take it in mind. I think we need also someone who understands German better than me, because for me it's just Chinese, and I don't know Chinese at all.
You also don't know German.
Yeah, I know English a bit, but I know French.
I'm gonna make myself a few French enemies now. At least you speak that baby language called French.
Yeah, but it's one of the oldest in the world, so
that's something speaking for you, at least. Look at that.
We ruled Europe at some point, but it was a long time ago. I wasn't born.
We should all learn Esperanto or something like that.
Yeah, or not.
Or not.
English is good.
Does the job fairly well.
Yeah, it's easier to understand than Esperanto. Someone suggested Vulkan, but I never tried to understand it. All right. We've got Stanwood also asking a questions. I've always wondered if there's an organization chart describing how the development of the core team is structured. Do you communicate on a matrix basis, or do you have a team leader, Alfred? No, not Alfred, who coordinates the work? In any case, thank you all for your amazing work. So, can you tell us how you organize things in the core development team?
Well, first of all, before Marius gets to say something, I want to say I'm flattered that I get pointed at when people say that there is a team leader here. I'm flabbergasted and I'm blushing. On to you, Marius.
Yeah, to answer the team leader, I think that's a little bit fluid, because no one is really like a head leader in that sense. It's flowing a little bit between who is there at the time. And right now, I would say probably Ratchanan is the team leader. But again, all decisions and stuff like that will be making together. It won't be one person saying this is what we should do. People say what we should do, but there is not someone that says this is what we will do. So the short answer is that we don't really have a team leader in that sense. And to how the organization chart is, this is also like everyone has kind of the same kind of power in that sense. Like every single developer has their own what they want to implement, and since we are mostly based on contributions by the community, there's nothing, since there's no one except for some like Ratchanan, other people aren't paid in that sense, so that's also why we can't really do anything. How can I say this? Everyone has their own work schedule. Everyone does what they want to do. There is no one dictating what people do and what people should not do. But for bigger decisions, we sit together and we make them together.
That is true indeed.
Yeah, a true community.
And this is also, in my opinion, how you come to also the best solutions. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer to do, but in the end, I think we come to a better solution once we value everyone's input.
Yeah, people often ask about what is the plan for Ubuntu Touch, and there is no plan as a company can make a 5-year plan. It's
all
just
domination.
Yeah,
Totally.
It's community effort. So we sit around the table, discuss it, and say, okay. And if people are motivated enough, then things get done.
There we go.
Yeah. We have a question from Jean-Luc L. He says, "Hello, friends. If it is in the topic of the Q&A, I think it is. Could you take a moment to explain once again the link between the version of Android originally installed on the smartphone and the version of Halium and the porting of Ubuntu Touch to the same smartphone? It's still not very clear in my mind. Why does it take so much effort, which I applaud, by the way, to create an image adapted to the hardware? Or could you point me to a place where this is explained?"
Yeah, sure. So we mentioned the answer to that earlier, and that is with the vendor partition and the Android system being separate from each other, and there, since Project Treble being some compatibility in between, where the system can expect vendor version 28 and 29 and 30 up to 33 by now to have certain properties and behave in a certain way, to have those functionalities accessible in a certain way, and we rely on those guarantees. So for the Fairphone 5, for example, it shipped with Android 13, but really the vendor partition is what dictates what is getting used, because that one is vendor version for Android 11, and because of that we use Halium 11 on that device as well. So it's not very clear because it's certainly depending on the device at hand. Regularly, we would say it's based on the Android version, but rather it's more or less based on the vendor partitions VNDK version that it supports. And for that, you would have to look on XDA or figure out some other way what's going on and what is actually happening on the device. At least when you start porting it and you take a look at the device's properties in system or in vendor/build prop, then you will figure it out.
Yeah, so that's why we say to the users to use this particular version of Android to flash it, and then install Ubuntu Touch on it, because we can guarantee that with this version of Android, you will have the correct vendor partitions, which is a bit difficult to say to the common Joe. This is this vendor partitions that you need on your device.
Yes. All right. We only have around 7 minutes to go. 2 minutes. Nah. I'm bad at math right now.
6.
6 minutes ago. Now it is 6 minutes. We should breeze through the next few questions really quick. What do you think?
Yeah, I will try to sum things up. We got questions from Alagliari asking about VoLTE and VO with Wi-Fi. So I think Marius already stated that VO Wi-Fi will work with VoLTE plugins, if I'm not mistaken.
Not yet.
Not yet. There is also a question about 5G and Discord 2G.
Yeah.
It's
For 5G, that already works.
Okay. Yeah, because it's depending on the vendor's drivers.
Yeah, for 5G, it doesn't matter if it's 4G or 5G. VoLTE works over the IP stack, so it shouldn't matter. Well, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. We already answered one of the questions, and the last one is, does Ubuntu Touch has some mechanism to lock and unlock the bootloader? No, we don't have anything to relock the bootloader after unlocking it to enable installing Ubuntu Touch.
Yeah, I've actually written, summarized a little blog post years ago where I talked about this and what would be required for us to actually support a use case like that. And we are not at the point where we can do that because our update mechanism and the use of AB partitions on recent devices, plus the VB meta partition, which says, okay, this one is actually supposed to have this system partition or this boot partition and this around this vendor partition to be verified so that we can guarantee that the system hasn't been tampered with. This is what the bootloader symbol actually, or this bootloader security actually does on Android. And by definition, what free software allows is modifying the system that you have installed on your device. So that is it is sort of mutually exclusive. Now, it is possible if you desire to have more security, and that would require you to lock it yourself and give the bootloader all the information that it needs to say, okay, this is actually the system that I have verified, and it hasn't been tampered with. But it's certainly harder to do for many people out there. And you could, I'm pretty sure, pretty much everyone out there can imagine a flame war happening just because we disallow modifying the system. But it might be a requirement in the future, depending on how device vendors and Google decide that things turn out. So, yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah. The last question from the forum is from Gosu-san, that is asking some information about installing to his device. I think you should go to the device page on the website and see how it's supposed to be done. If you don't understand everything, then before doing something that will risk breaking your foil, then go to the forum and ask there. We have some amazing members that are very good at explaining how to do things. And yeah, your device is a Xiaomi phone, so it's a bit harder with Xiaomi devices because of their unlocking bootloader. But yeah, this is the best way. We have still a couple of minutes. Do you see any question in the live chats that you want to take?
I want to take this one by Christopher because this, I know Christopher doesn't, just saying to you, Christopher, I know you don't want to make my blood boil, but reading dual boot, every time I see that, I go nuts. So let's start off with dual booting on a device like running Android and Ubuntu Touch. This is not something that we can support realistically without sacrificing functionality, without sacrificing time, effort spent on actually developing the thing. Because with that, you would have to have a split user data partition where one partition half is used for Android and the other half is used for Ubuntu Touch, because Android uses SE Linux and Ubuntu Touch uses AppArmor. Those two things conflict, and they might have a different idea about what to do with the data. So this is not something that we can realistically support without putting more effort into it, and we do not want to put more effort into it because we want to provide a good operating system for a phone as the main daily driver. if you want to play around with things, then sure. But then I have to admit, you're not the audience that we cater towards. So yeah. But thanks for the question, though.
I think it sums things up, and we are just at 1 hour.
Look at that. All right. So thanks a lot for joining us tonight. Thanks also to Marius and Apply for joining me tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you both.
Nice.
One
Let's
here,
all do this one. Everybody press clap in the back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great job, guys.
Hearts.
no, this way. It's difficult.
All the hearts.
It's easy for me, I guess.
And Marius, get it easy now. Look at that. That's a squished heart.
There we go. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks everyone for joining us tonight, and hopefully we will probably do this again in 2 weeks. That's at least the goal. That's the plan. And until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and yeah, don't hurt your toes on your paper or something.
Yeah.
And also don't fall down mountains.
Yeah.
Avoid that. We need you, Marius.
Yes. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
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 And stream.